talk about the word conspiracy. It's a pretty loaded word. There seem to be two extreme camps about this. You've got your kooks and you've got your deniers. And they're both pretty damaging. On the one side you have the kooks, and these are the people that seem to see a conspiracy in everything. If there's a hurricane, it's government weather control. If someone gets shot at a school, it's government mind control. If their coffee's cold in the morning, the government did it. These people, it ranges. They range from the really extreme space alien whatever to the sort of true, sort of not true stuff. And then there's just the weird junk with the Illuminati, Freemason, Black Pope, yada yada. And those people are very damaging because you even say the word conspiracy and you're in with the kooks, and normal people don't even want to write about it. But there have been conspiracies. Russian oligarchs, Potemkin, yada yada. On the other side, you have your deniers, and these are the people who seem to think that conspiracies can't happen, that it's just impossible, that the government doesn't lie, the media doesn't cover things up, and there's never been a covert operation in all of world history. And that's just pretty ignorant. That's insane. You don't have to fly over to the other side to believe in whatever. But to deny all conspiracies in general, that's pretty damn ignorant. They just believe there can't be conspiracy. Someone would say something. The media never lies. Trust us, we're the government. Both of these groups are very damaging to the truth about actual conspiracies which have happened. The kooks turn people off and put them on a path to nowhere. And the deniers won't even listen to the whole topic, either because they've been turned off by the kooks, or they just have a knee-jerk reaction to the whole idea of conspiracies for whatever reason. Or they're just ignorant as hell of history. And there's one last group, one third group, and I guess you'd stick them over with the kooks. And these are the people who blame a specific ethnicity or religion for something, like it's the Catholics, or it's the Jews, or the whatevers. It's the white man. It's something like that. And that's just ignorant. Now, the Catholic Church has done plenty of its own crimes. The nation of Israel has done plenty of its own crimes, as have Zionists. Nations with majority white populations may have done bad things, or not may have, definitely have done terrible things. But it's taking it a generalization and making it an absolute. And that's just faulty logic. It's craziness. And it's very hateful, and that's very damaging. Because then, when you do want to talk about something that a nation has done, or a group has financed, it automatically becomes the group in general. So if I want to talk about a specific priest that raped somebody, that's what that guy did. It's not what Catholics in general did, but it becomes an attack on all of Christianity somehow. Or something that Russian oligarchs have done shouldn't pour over to Russians in general, or white people in general, or whatever. Same thing with Nazis, or the North Koreans. It's not Asians, it's North Korean government. And when Israel does something, it's not anti-Semitism, it's Israeli government, and it's what they're doing. It's, the South African apartheid. That wasn't what white people did. That is what some white people in South Africa did. And so you got to be allowed to criticize these things without somebody twisting that into this giant generalization and saying you're attacking a specific group and you're racist or you're a bigot or whatever. That's just nonsense. So I know someone's going to try and do that anyway. That's what we're going to talk about. But it's not going to work.
Well, what is it about the human psyche that seems to be drawn towards these conspiracy theories? Is it some love of the unknown, or some idea that there may be forces out there that are controlling our destiny?
Well, I think there are three factors. A, nobody likes to take the blame for their own problems, so they look for somebody else to blame. And if you can find a big enough group, you've explained everything in your life that doesn't work.
That's the parental conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's the fault. If it's not your fault or your parents. It's the Jesuits, the Freemasons, the Jews, the Bilderbergers, the Council on Foreign Relations. You got a lot of wide choice to pick who to blame.
Rich white man.
Yeah, as long as you don't have to blame yourself. That's one motive. And another motive is that we are living in very weird times. The world is changing faster and faster. which I think is due to the acceleration of information flow in the modern world. Information is increasing, and the transmission of information is going faster and faster due to internet and the whole computer revolution, which means that most people are living in a world they can't understand. And when people can't understand something, they tend to go for sinister explanations of it. Somebody is manipulating things in a way I don't like. That's the way people feel when things change too fast and they can't understand it. And the third reason is, of course, that there are lots of conspiracies around. You're supposed to be a nut if you think about conspiracies, unless you're a district attorney. Then you can bring in 20 people into the court and charge them under the RICO law with conspiracy, even if they never met one another. And, I mean, well, the government does recognize conspiracies. Every government does. There are laws against conspiracy. And conspiracies do exist. The question is, do any really big ones exist, such as the ones imagined in the more extravagant conspiracy theories?
Now, it's interesting that you should bring up that this may be a modern phenomena, because if you go back through history, as you do in the encyclopedia, there have always been conspiracy theories. Was it Ishmael Reed, the novelist, who said the history of the world is the history of the war between secret societies?
Yes, I like that quote quite a bit because there's a certain element of truth in it, but it's just bizarre enough to make people sit up and say, what?
Why is there so much resistance? And I'm going to say more about this. Why is there so much resistance, or almost cultural resistance, among scientists from talking about the ethics of brain research? Especially when you're talking about national intelligence or military applications. Well, one reason is that we live in a society that is absolutely shot through with conspiracy theory. And in particular, of course, as Americans, a very important part of our tradition, actually I think an admirable part of our tradition, is that we're skeptical about government. Those of us whose ancestors had the choice about coming here, some of us are first-generation Americans, I am, came here partly because, like my parents, they were trying to get away from government. They were trying to get away from a government that was involved in persecuting them or their families. So we have a very strong suspicion, and I think on the whole healthy suspicion of government in the U.S. In fact, I'll bet if you go home and talk to your families, there will be people in your families who are very skeptical about what happened on 9/11 and don't believe we're getting the full story. There's still a lot of disagreement with the Warren Commission and the JF Kennedy assassination. So we have a strong sense of this.
It's more of a conspiracy of stupidity, it seems like, is running the planet.
I think that is the strongest conspiracy on the planet, is the conspiracy of the stupid.
Yeah.
To prevent schools from educating their children, because they want their children to be as dumb as they are, to prevent television from putting anything intelligent on as much as possible.
Kids, what's going on?
He's sick. And he just got back from a long vacation.
Oh, really, Bird? Where did you go?
I was visiting my relatives in Southeast Asia.
Whoa, wait a minute, Bird. You might have the bird flu.
The bird flu? What's that?
Just think to yourself, what makes more sense to you? You know, if you ask me if conspiracy theories exist, of course I'm going to tell you yes. There's also a lot of fear-mongering. There's also a lot of stories that are just propaganda bullshit, fed to you to breed the fear. And one has to ask, who is releasing these stories? Are they for your benefit? Really? So, we all know that in a war, usually the one that forks out the money always owns both sides of the war, right? To me, the info war is no different. So one has to really look at the information that we're being fed. Is it truth? Does it make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense, I wouldn't buy into it. You have to be able to give me something solid. You have to be able to give me something that I can research and look up and find for myself, read about myself. Otherwise, it's nothing more than mainstream media propaganda to me. And if you're going to hide names and sources and specific details, I have to question your story. If it's legit, or if it's meant to do nothing more than to scare people. And I'm finding a lot of these stories do just that. And if you're scared, half the work is done for them. They really don't have to control a lot of people if most of you are scared. They already have you. A lot of people say that the opposite of love is hate, but it's not. The opposite of love is fear.